It's me. Look, bro. You see me. I don't even got to say nothing. You know who it is. It's me. Look, pay attention, y'all, because I'm here with a very important person, all right? Listen. My friend, introduce yourself.
Hi, I make music. I go by Scythinus currently. I've had probably like 10 names that I've published under. 4 main ones, Count of 1000, Eternity God, and Scythinus. And that's me.
Man, that's awesome. A person of many names is somebody with some excellent stories to tell.
Maybe.
All right. Well, so I always ask people this question, and because every interviewer asks, "What are your influences?" I think that's kind of corny. I want to be like, "What made you start doing music? What was the catalyst? What happened inside you that made you like, man, I got to do something creative?"
So I've actually, thankfully, been able to, like very recently too. I was talking to someone on Instagram because they're asking me if I was part of Spirit Girls. So I like explained all of the Spirit Girl stuff. And it kind of made me realize, like, the catalyst for making music was really due to the fact that I never really had anything that I felt I had ever achieved or done with my life, basically. And I wasn't ever very sociable. I didn't do activity. I didn't even really consider like playing video games as a part of myself or being into computers. I really just spent hours upon hours upon hours of listening to music, just sitting at my computer, you know, toying with speed changing things on Audacity since I was like 9 years old. So eventually it just kind of got to the point where people near me started making their first songs, and that was super inspiring, and a lot of people my age were turning to things like SoundCloud and YouTube and Bandcamp to express themselves. And finally, when I was around 17 years old, I just I made one full, or you know, I made a beat that made sense to listen to, and it kind of just sparked this addiction within me, and the train just has really never lost its momentum still.
I like the way you worded that, a beat that makes sense to listen to. That I love that.
Because I'm not musically trained at all. Like, I don't know what rhythms are. I don't know really much about music theory at all. So it's really just like putting sounds into a cracked copy of FL Studio.
Yeah.
Until like I could replicate something adjacent to something I heard in another song.
Yeah. Well, I'm musically trained myself. Well, not like classically, like classical music, Beethoven and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, bro, you're really not missing out on too much. Bro, it's really like, because a part of, man, my parents get on me all for this type of shit all the time. Why'd you stop playing that instrument? Right? And a lot of what you learn on that instrument is, like, number one, work ethic, and to develop a bond with your instrument, like to really understand the nook and cranny of things. And I feel like for this new generation of music, this electronic digital generation of music, our instrument is the computer. It is whatever DAW we're using. And
absolutely.
So I think that's very inspirational how you broke that down. Like that was great.
I tried in middle school to kind of latch onto the bass guitar, but I just like couldn't bring myself to really want to get good at it. Mm-hmm. But something about creating something digitally and kind of having like a control panel, that kind of, it made it into a lot more, because a lot of instruments is like finesse based, and like I struggled with confidence for a long time. So being able to kind of be alone, and even if it sounded bad, like I could still tweak it live time without kind of having to do this like muscular training, which was what I was so bad at, and just setting aside hours and hours on playing.
Yeah, I totally understand too. I feel like one of there's because I started playing instruments young, right? I started playing saxophone at 9 years old, and then I stopped when I was 17, and so I got pretty good on it, right? And the reason why I picked saxophone over the other instruments, I was like, I might play flute or trombone or some shit. But the reason why I picked saxophone was because it was contemporary. Like, saxophone was seen as sexy, cool, and sometimes it was in like music, right? So I'm like, that's like a relevant instrument. And I feel like when you go to school, I could talk about this forever, but like school does not do a good job of putting things in real life perspectives, the things that they teach you. So it makes you feel extremely unmotivated to go down that path of playing the bass guitar and stuff like that. Like, did you have any role models for bass guitar?
Well, the person I started Spirit Girls with, YG Crisis, now known as I Miss You, we met in the 6th grade, and I think I really put him onto like Nirvana and stuff. Like, we were just huge into Nirvana, and he just like from that immediately just started playing guitar, and he became very talented, and was already writing songs like before I had even like worked on anything really. Our musical collaboration beforehand was just kind of these horrible improvisational pieces which just kind of suck, but so he was always a huge inspiration, and he had a guitar teacher named Matt, and I tried to do a few lessons with him, but I would just get embarrassed because I wasn't applying myself. So each lesson I would just kind of show that I didn't do anything for the whole week, and I barely picked up the instrument. I wasn't really learning, so I just kind of got embarrassed at some point and just kind of dropped it entirely for years.
Yeah, I totally understand how that feels, and I feel like to relate that to what we do now, making like computer music, is I feel like there's what you just explained there, like having somebody in real life to look to for like to make things real, like to put things in perspective of and where you are in relation to that. So like, for example, for me, one of the things that like coming up, me and J. Cole are from the same city. Do you know who J. Cole is, right?
Yeah, my brother loves his music.
Right. And so like seeing him like make music through like the machinery and computers and shit, it was like, wow, now that's what I want to do. Like it wasn't just inspirational, it like made things seem possible because things were in front of me. Once I learned how to make beats and like learn how to do things like that, like it just seems so much more real to me than playing a saxophone, for real.
Absolutely. I also failed to mention another very key component to inspiring me is a musician named Memory Loss on SoundCloud that I've known since I was literally like 14 years old. And again, it's like one of those stories of like they got inspired from the music they were listening to, and they had, they started making beats on FL, and that was massive to me. Like and a lot of my like internet friends that I had previously cultivated just on listening, just by listening to the same music and posting about it and eventually finding each other, that was like really mind-blowing because a lot of it just sounded so quality. It already sounded adjacent to the independent music I've been searching out on like databases and through word of mouth. So for like very young people to already be in the playing field, that was massive to me, and it made me feel as if like I could actually achieve something.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's a really excellent. Like you're doing a great job. And that's the thing, right? Because afterwards, I moved out of Fayetteville. That's where J. Cole's from. So I moved out of Fayetteville, and I live in like a rural part of Virginia, like of Northern Virginia, right? And it's like fucking. So I'm playing saxophone. So I'm playing saxophone in a place where there's nowhere to play it. Like there's places to play music, right? You go to a city, there's venues, there's underground clubs where people can perform. But if I'm living in Timbuktu, there's really no important reason or place for me to play the saxophone. Like there's no place for that. But with the internet and music with FL Studio and things like that, there will always be a place for that type of music. You know, and people always talk about, that rock and roll is going to be timeless, which it is, but I guarantee you, like, us human beings are timely. We have to work, number one, get a job, and, you know, like, we have to operate in the real world. So, things being digital make things super convenient, and, being able to meet people, you know, through the internet and stuff like that, it's really another dimension to me.
Absolutely. I actually relate on that topic where around you isn't a scene. I come from a very like cut and paste suburb in South Carolina, like 8,000 population kind of shit. Mm-hmm. So the creativity was kind of limited, and it was already, you know, being pulled from the major metropolitan areas of the United States anyways. Like, it didn't really feel like anything was being created from, like, this time and place that I embodied. So I felt very alienated, and there weren't really... Like, I got very lucky that my best friend just happened to be as much into music and into the exact same music as I was. And, but still, like, it felt very... circumstantial to the specifics of my life. So even if I had that kind of like a arbiter, it still felt like it was just like another component of me in like my eyes. So it was still very limited, and it just didn't really feel like I was being inspired from my location very much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that's unique to us as our generation of musicians. We look at the musicians of yesteryear, right? And like the whole process of getting in contact with the record label, and then I show them my demo. You could have hundreds of songs, but you have to get a selected group of songs from your demo that won't even see the radio yet. They get heard by one person, and they're like, should we do... Like, the whole process is different. All you got to really do now is just post your music on SoundCloud, on Spotify, or wherever you can, TikTok, to garner a following. Yeah,
absolutely. Just have, you know, it's really all about aesthetics now, and kind of this this like web-based PO. You know, you really are your own manager now, and it's really up to you to curate the exact fan base and the exact sound that you want. It's very, I feel like a lot of music now, we're in a time and place where it's like there's any kind of genre, even if it was made like thousands of years ago, you know, there's fusion for everything now. There's a new contemporary fan base for any kind of sound you want to make, and it's really just up to you to kind of find that audience instead of, you know, go through the process of making recordings and like getting in touch with people. It's so easy to just publish whatever you want.
Yeah Like, as much as I have qualms and problems with the internet, and like sometimes I go through YouTube, bro, I have so many hours on YouTube and like TikTok, and sometimes I feel like my brain is being rotted. But here, the reason why I do it though is because I feel connected to something. Like, I'm always with my people when I'm on YouTube. I don't feel like a complete loner when I'm on YouTube or TikTok, because number one, the algorithm like you said, curates things for me to see. And once you become a creator yourself, you know, once you become an artist, you then are able to do that for other people. You know, you
Exactly.
like your music has a unique message or themes. It makes people feel a certain way, and people, you know, as your fan base grows, collects, and then, oh my God, we're all, oh yeah, we all, yeah, and everybody bonds.
Exactly. We are in this kind of digital age of I don't want to say excess, but you know, I guess this is a bit redundant to my last point, but really everything has excess now. Like nothing's truly underground anymore. Everything is for the picking, and people will actively create content for the process of like it being connected to people. And I feel like that's like a contextual thing that we didn't have even 10 years ago, really.
Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of bewildering to me. Like it's so like I'm like a fish out of water sometimes, because I get so caught up in the ecosystem that I'm in with underground rap music and like for example, like Plugg and B, or just kind of it's blown up like and tremendously recently. But
absolutely.
I then like get out of my little bubble, and then I'm like, hey, do you listen to so and so? And they like, no, I don't listen to so and so. Who is that? Oh, bro, I've never heard of this guy. And so all the memes and tropes and stories that I've become so akin to, and like those certain inside jokes, little dynamics are like not there. And it's kind of like certain people see things and they're like, oh, that's just on TikTok. But once something gets enough power, a large enough following or an active enough fan base, it then makes that crossover. This doesn't have anything to do with music, but like that's the case with Andrew Tate.
Oh yeah, like just like the process of memetics in general. Like not just music, not even just like visuals, but just ideas being either utilized in words or media. It's like a fire, basically.
Yeah. Okay, so you said a word that made me sparkle, bro. Like you said memetics.
Yeah,
all right.
It can be kind of pretentious sometimes.
I love that word. Okay, so are you familiar with Chris Gabriel, like meme analysis?
No, honestly, I'm not very well read in any regard.
All right.
Personally.
So, okay. All right. So, meme analysis, he's this YouTube channel. I think I haven't checked his sub count. But he is like, he studies memes like they're their own subject in school. Like there's a whole study on this. It's immense. And so we have our modern memes, you know, we have like Wojaks or but then like 10 years ago we had like the troll face and stuff like that, like
the rage comics,
all that type of stuff, right?
And like what impact font, like bottom text, top text kind of stuff. And how those he first made the connection, I think, that like, okay, Wojaks are like the modern form of those earlier concepts of like the rage face and the impact font. Like they're connected. They're like a reincarnation of that. And his whole thesis, his whole main idea is that humanity has been doing this for ages. Absolutely.
And we've been like the Greeks. Greek mythology is memes. Like that's a whole meme, but for the Greeks. And then Christianity is a meme, but like for that period of time. And they have their own mythology, and they all grow, and then it restarts. Like it's unique to every culture. Like unique isn't the correct word. Like there's a better word I could use for that. But each culture has their own iteration of their mythology and the memes.
And And we're at the point where, like, meme, like, meme used to be conflated with like a type of image on the internet, but throughout time it's kind of unraveled for us to kind of see that it's just kind of infinity. It's idea as a very vague thing. I'm trying so hard to sound like I know exactly what I'm talking about, but I don't. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm a genius or anything. But it is just like what I have noticed. The more I've kind of been accustomed to using the internet and being indicted in very like niche communities, and also like being at the forefront of communities that then blow up, like. being at the beginning of something really makes you realize just how liquid idea is and how easy it is for an idea to kind of latch into objectivity.
Yeah.
And I guess that's really all I have to say for that.
Well, I mean, you're cooking. You're making lots of good points. It's a very new science. Like, I don't think anybody really sounds like a genius yet. I mean, unless they read books all day, you know, and they have the right word for everything.
I'm not a book smart person. I haven't read very much, and I didn't do my homework throughout school ever. So a lot of this is just kind of coming from pure anecdote, from, you know, my own personal experience navigating the web and real life too.
For sure. So like, okay, so you know how things go viral, right? Viral. That word, viral. Virus. Ideas.
Pathologic.
Yeah, it's pathologic. Like, it spreads like a virus, and they're mental. They're mental diseases. Like, so it can be very like kind of like a disease. I mean, depending on how annoying it is. Like when the Chrissy wake up. I don't like, you know, depending on how like dumb it is, it's really a disease that I make a conscious effort to like not say memes in real life. Like, depending on whom I'm around, like if I catch myself like wanting to say a joke that wouldn't make sense in real life, I'm like, yo, I can't say that. Like, that would make me seem like a serial killer. Like,
no. I think that's like the next step. For memes in general is just well, I feel like this has already been going underway, but it's kind of like this shamelessness surrounding it, of just kind of adopting it into our speech and mannerisms in general, and not really worrying about the consequence, you know, because we know what each other are talking about most of the time anyways, so it's just like another part of language, you know. Yeah. What's crazy to me, right? I don't know if you've ever seen this, but like,
younger kids with parents that aren't as present as they should be, their movements, they're like, the way that they move their body is animated like a cartoon or an anime character, and they flay their arms about, and they're like, and they use their voice in very, I didn't know that was really like that. Well, you can tell me. Like, it's very like a cartoon, like I just said. And that, to me, that's almost scary. Like, it's not just jokes now. It's the way this person learned to move as an infant.
Yeah. Like, through the process of like, it's just, I don't know what the actual term in psychology is, but I'm just gonna say like monkey see, monkey do. You know? Just kind of copying behavior from an external source. And in my own personal experience, I know that problem is probably exacerbated a lot more now, because technology is even more like common, and especially like personal technology, where these kids can interact with the like I said, the like abundance of content and sub niches, like oh gosh, sorry, I'm blah blah blah. So I gotta I just bit my tongue, but I feel as if I was one of those kids growing up. I very much was. Now I might have autism, okay, but I never have been like properly diagnosed. But I oftentimes would watch things like Team Fortress 2 memes on an iPad, and then I would go on the playground and I would like quote these things, hoping that the other kids on the playground would like understand the video I've seen. And that was like pretty much how I made friends throughout school, was hoping that at least like one of these ideas would latch on, and then we like have a connection based on like being interested in the same thing. It's just like I never was into things like superheroes or I don't even know, man. I feel so detached from humanity a lot of the times, but or like movies and shows. A lot of the times I just had memes to kind of use to propel into socializing. So I do relate a lot to what you're saying and the concern behind it, because I had a pretty hard time, and I was pretty socially isolated a lot of the time, because I physically could not just realize like I'm literally going on the playground and trying to see if people watch the same YouTube poops as me. Probably nobody did.
Listen, yo, I'm about to tell you something I've never told anybody. It's kind of a long story, but it makes a lot of sense in the context of this conversation. I remember as a little kid in kindergarten that I couldn't play basketball. I guarantee you the reason why I'm a rapper now and not insane athlete is because one kid was like, nah, bro, the court's full, like you can't play, like in kindergarten. So then I would just go outside and like go on the swings, right? And going outside was cool to me, but it wasn't as cool as my new fandangled Xbox, my new Wii. It wasn't as cool. And I ended up, my first game that I got on the Xbox 360 was Halo 3 ODST.
Oh, that's a good one.
And after that, for my birthday that year, I got Halo Reach. And so this is like 2009 or 2010, not sure. And I'm like, wow, I was young. I was like 7, 8 years old. I start making friends through the Xbox, and I end up having a family like in the game. Like I have friends that I'm so close with, and there was a hierarchy forming, and we didn't even know it. Like there is a guy who was the oldest one, and he would be a source of our wisdom, right? And like we were like a bunch of wild kids on the internet with no guidance, no parental wisdom, no real wisdom, just completely aimless, figuring out things and going as we did on the internet. And I had like instead of going outside and developing childhood friends like most people did, I had them on the internet and on the Xbox. I don't speak to them anymore. I do have their information, like I could call them if I wanted. But the thing is, though, I could talk to them whenever I wanted. I didn't have to, can I go to your mom's house? And da-da-da. It's like, I can just turn on my Xbox and there you go. I have a cousin, I have a brother that like I can just have almost forever, indefinitely, as long as things go well. And I think this is the problem, right? And I think that without having a level of self-awareness, intelligence, and self-control to then act on your condition, like it could be more detrimental than cool.
Absolutely. And if I may relate to that, simultaneously throughout my time as a kid trying to use things like memes and video game culture to connect with people, I actually had a Steam account around when I was 9 years old, and I was already like making friends off of just playing like TF2 and stuff, because I would just talk. I would constantly communicate, even if I was just like the dumbest person ever. I refused to shut up. So I think that naturally lended me to finding a lot of people on the internet. I was friends with, like, I had a DeviantArt account when I was 9 or 10, and I would spam MS Paint drawings like they were bad, and I just didn't care. Like, I literally would spam DeviantArt drawings constantly, and it didn't matter what the subject was. It didn't even matter if it was just like how a song made me feel. I would spam and spam and spam and spam. And so yeah, I had a lot of personalized web connections that kind of felt better than real life, because it felt like I was isolated a lot in real life, and that it was hard for me to necessarily find common ground unless there were all these like boxes ticked off, you know, beforehand.
Yep. I'm admitting it. I still feel the same way, the way you just worded it. I have to have these boxes ticked off before I can really open up to a person. You know, like, not just because, granted, you're a stranger and I just met you, right? But because of the way the conversation is going, right? You know, we're both like, we're artists, we make music and da. That right there is like a green light. Okay, you can talk about this. But when I go outside and I want to have a real physical connection, because there's something completely unique there, a completely unique exchange of energy going on there that's just beyond conversation. Like when I have to have those boxes checked. But because the internet is so personalized, they never ever really get checked, and I have to end up like almost becoming like half of who I really am to these people.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like, sometimes it can lend you, even, at least for me, you know, personally, it can lend to this almost like identity schizophrenia, where it's like, who am I really? Because, like, on one hand, everyone that I'm around physically, you know, there's like a level of restraint, because it almost feels as if like they, like I put on to them that like maybe they can't relate, just by the basis that they haven't had all of these like specific, you know, inside jokes and cultural, like same cultural appreciation, and, you know, all of our little commodities of individuality that we are granted through using the internet.
Yeah. For ssure. It's definitely, I'm gonna make the transition really soon to talking about music.
No, I'm really happy that this has been the opener, because I feel like this directly coincides with why, you know, the creations I create are the way they are. Like, this is very important to me.
Yeah, that's exactly why I do music, is because I saw the power that rappers had. And I grew up in a predominantly like black and brown community, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was really like, if you want, like, if your parents, they listen to older music, right? But the stuff that the kids, that your older siblings are listening to, and what you would come to listen to, are like is contemporary, you know, for example, rap music, pop music, or rock music. And I realized the power they had. And I would see all this fuss on TV, like the war in Iraq and and then like the president can't do anything about it. The taxes are bad.
Global economic recession, depression.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on during this time. But I'm like, you know who has a lot of power though? Them rappers. They make people happy. They make people dance. They say the words, and they have so much influence, and they make me smile. I want to be like that when I grow up. Same thing with YouTubers. Like, I would watch. Who would I watch when I was? I would, man, I would watch like, who's a really good example? I don't know, Markiplier. Markiplier's been on YouTube for years, like ages, and like I would watch him, like, yeah, I want to be like him, you know, like, because he had this, he made me comfortable, you know, he just made me feel comfortable.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's why I do things the way I do, is because I want to make people feel that same way with my music. Music to me is magic. So what about you?
I would say it's pretty similar, but I didn't really when I was growing up, I didn't really think about things as like giving me comfort, more so that like it just was a very natural interest. Like I didn't even have to think about it. I just loved it, and sometimes it didn't even make sense why I liked it, but I just would continue to. And eventually, finally, I had found kind of as I grew older, I found people that spoke to my sensibilities even more emotionally, and you know, the circumstance of what their art was about resonated with me so personally, to the point where it just like propelled obsession and inspiration. You know, I'd be like, oh, I want to be able to make songs. I want to be able to like, because like the music was so beautiful, really I would feel emotions from it, and it felt like as if it made me feel something. So yeah, it was really just it just was a very natural thing for me. I never really gave myself the credit of having my own interest for most of my life, so for music to be there and for me to be so obsessed with it so naturally, I guess that's just how my life has always been. Like being like 3 years old in the car and like listening to the drums in the song and kind of you know, trying to replicate the pattern it was playing in, and like identifying verses and choruses. It's like a very naturally mathematic thing in my head that I just loved.
Yeah. At what point in your life did you start to create the artistic persona, and how did that interfere with like your real life? When did those two people start to split?
Oh, that is such a beautiful question. Like, I'm genuinely, like, I feel like I've needed to be asked that question for so long, because it was a very painful thing, to tell you the truth. So I settled with the name Eternity God, but I didn't know why. It would just be something I like drew, and like I saw these like web creators and stuff, and it would just be like a phrase that I would put on like paint.net image edits. I wasn't really at a place where I was like being fed all of this like cultural obscurity until maybe I was about like 15 or 16, and then I feel like I was kind of like a whole world opened up. But initially, all of the creations and the music and setting up the aesthetics for the basis of releasing those things, it was very much just kind of its time and place. It was of its location and geographical coordinates. It was all about suburbia and kind of like the lifelessness and the depression that comes with when you can't fit into it, because I really do feel like it's like the epicenter for isolation. You know, if you don't want to become some brand loyalist, or if you're really just not all that interested in what public services have to offer, then, you know, you're just kind of screwed socially. Yeah. And that's it. I just felt that so hard, and the more I looked around me, and I felt more as if I didn't have my own life. I was just put in a place where there were shopping malls, and there was decay, and there were barbed wire fences everywhere. So I initially used that as an outlet to express that kind of sorrow, while, you know, still still being very much a vestige for a lot of the influences I had. Like James Ferraro is a massive influence on me, both musically and personally, and just like being able to identify what is around me. And so I made a lot of songs with my friends, and they just sounded good, you know. They sounded good to me, and I loved listening to them. It made me happy to have been able to release something. And I feel like the problem with that was that I'd never established any kind of confidence within my physical self and within my personal life. So all of like my craft and my creation became the vestige for almost like, you know, people talk about super egos. It was like an infinity ego. I mean, my name was literally Eternity God.
Yeah.
So I just started to kind of spam all the songs I really liked and all of like the low key music I was listening to that really I identified with, to the point where it was like I didn't even want to be Gavin anymore. I just wanted to be Eternity God. And at first it was fun in games, but as I met more people through the internet and I got more reception and more people were telling me that, you know, they really appreciated it, I feel like I kind of got almost suffocated by it. And it wasn't until, I want to say, like, this is going to sound like really corny, and maybe to whoever's listening this is going to be a massive eye roll, but the last time I ever did LSD, it entire time was just me having to come to terms with the way I'd let the internet get in the way of my personal life. Like when I was hanging out with people, I just was on my phone the whole time. I was on the computer, and some people see that as like, you know, oh, you were just really honing your craft and your image, but it was at that point that I realized at what cost. Like I hadn't truly, I had like given this this thing all of the power. I had given up my flesh for it. I would want to hurt myself if it meant something was better, you know, and if it meant that I had something stronger to build off of. And that kind of was a massive turning point in the way that I kind of interacted with the internet and interacted, you know, with myself and the world around me. And I feel like that's mostly it.
Yeah, I think, oh man, I definitely relate to that too. Like, I feel like here's where I start. So again, it always starts in these developmental areas of my life where I'm like, oh dang, like what am I to do? And the internet has always been that thing I do. And I noticed the separation between the two people I am. They sound super schizophrenic, but like off of my interests. At school, 6th grade, I had like my friends who had the same interests as me. They like to play video games and things like that. They were more on the internet as well. But then on my other side, I had like my black friends who like I could connect with physically and culturally. Like I don't know, I felt more comfortable around them there, right? But here's the thing, and I still have this thing going on today, where unless I'm doing something with you in real life, like we have to be doing an experience together, right? We have to be, I don't know, chopping wood, trees together if I want to bond with you, right? And the small bits of dialogue we exchange during that time we chop wood would mean something to me, you know, because we're facing a certain level of adversity by being together in real life. We have to like breathe and do all these human things, right? On the internet, it's different. For some reason, I could just sit in a party chat on Xbox or like this on Discord and talk for hours. But in real life, I don't have that ability. Like in real life, I'm much more introverted. But on here, I'm much more extroverted. Like I give less fucks, right? And I noticed that split when I was in middle school. Now, bro, the split has never been more evident. Just last night, I watched Fight Club, and I feel like all of this is a socio-cultural symptom of where we are in life. In Fight Club, they talk about how we're the purposeless generation. We have no great war. Our great war is a spiritual war. All that blah, 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 self-help and corny shit, right? And it's corny to me at this point because I've seen it so much. Matrix, same type of deal, right? But I've come to a point where I kind of embrace it. In the movie, the main protagonist, the narrator, kills Tyler Durden. But he was wrestling with becoming Tyler Durden in real life. He had actualized himself in real life. That movie was made in 1999. The year is 2022, and I have made a completely separate persona. I'm in a ski mask, a suit, and tie. I look like the TF2 spy right now, and I'm doing this interview, and I'm building a whole mythos, like a whole memetic mythos. That's my goal, at least, around that, so that people understand the shit that we're talking about. Because I feel like what we're talking about is something that a lot of people have, I think, as of now, unconsciously know and have gone through. And that's why I feel like people flock to places like SoundCloud, TikTok, and YouTube. Everybody wants to be a content creator because of this reason. This new platform has offered itself to us, this new dimension. The internet is the new frontier. It's the new West for us. We can be whoever we want. And that's why this is kind of radical what I'm about to say, but with the internet being around, there has been an explosion of sexuality. Pornography is super accessible, and people feel comfortable to voice how they really feel about their desires and things like that. Same thing with like gore, which is crazy, but it's another place for us to express ourselves. When there's not a place in real life we can express ourselves, we do it on the internet. And that's why, like, people in the game chat, they say N-word, I'm like all that crazy stuff on the internet, because they can't do it in real life. Not because they may be actually racist, but they have this urge that they can't transmute. They can't use it for something more beneficial and constructive in real life. So they do it on the internet. And what I have done, instead of trying to rebuke the internet and turn into a Ted Kaczynski Unabomber type of person, I have just embraced it. If I didn't, number one, I'd feel largely unfulfilled, and I'd spend my whole life in shambles, being completely alone, because the seeds are already there. I'm forced to live in this world anyway, so I should just make the most of it. Man, just like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I was in my room late night breaking down. Fuck, cause I'm like, damn, like I'm me, and it's so hard to relate to people in real life sometimes. Because at the time, like, I wasn't going out of my way to meet people online. It was just me. And I felt like the only person I really had wasn't even a person. It was a dog, And that's crazy because the dog didn't speak. The dog just listened. And it's so crazy. And here's the thing. All right. And this is the thing that sucks. And this is why the internet sucks sometimes. Is because it's a new dimension separate from our physical one. It's really crazy to most of our energy that we put into it doesn't come back to us. It's not until that we become an artist, become some infamous figure, some god of the internet, a Hercules, a Zeus, an Aphrodite of the internet, that we can then turn the internet into real life. We can make this digital fruit become real, get money, get paid, become known outside. At first, yeah, no one knows me right now, but soon, I swear to God, somebody, dude, you're that guy in the ski mask, aren't you? I heard your voice from somewhere. Like,
I heard your interview with Eternity God.
yeah, like, bro, like, and I feel like that's what's happening. And to me, a lot of people, like I mentioned earlier, Chris Gabriel, he wants people to like, hey, if you're gonna use the internet, use it in a way that you can survive and not completely sacrifice your flesh, because that's a real thing. You know what you said, and
for the image, it's not even. You're sacrificing yourself to be disingenuous, and that was what ate me alive. I felt this like permeating disingenuity that like I was just trying so hard to be someone that I really wasn't.
Yeah, like in my case, I really I wouldn't call it disingenuous. I would just disingenuous in the way that I'm not a hitman. I'm not a guy who hits clips in CS:GO or on the battlefield. Like I'm hitting clips, Warzone, dropping it. Like, even though I would probably like to do that in real life, I would fold in real life. I wouldn't be able to be capable of shooting guns at such precision. I wouldn't be able to do that. But in the game, I'm able to express that person. But it's like you just said, you know, it's disingenuous because it's not real. Like it's not. I don't have a gunsmith in my house. You know, I think that'd be pretty cool, but it's not. It's not really it. So, but here's the thing, and this is how it all comes together, is that with rap, in real life, I am a rapper. I am a producer. I am a YouTuber. Like these are avenues. SoundCloud and all these streaming services are the medium between the digital realm and the real realm. And it's all about how you can get people to pay attention to you. And that's really the science of memetics. Absolutely.
I would like to say, after my realization, I feel like I went by Count Up 1000 at the time, but at some point I changed my name to Scythinus, and I took it from a word named Pythoness, which I believe refers to, I think, a Greek goddess, or some kind of mythological figure who was a soothsayer. But I thought Scythinus, just, you know, I used to be like a huge fucking tryptamine addict, so I love to trip. I don't anymore, but it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing of this past thing I'd shed that I wanted to kind of permeate into this identity. So I feel like for the last year or so, I've really tried to dissolve the bounds of image and me. So I'm no longer ashamed to, you know, just like reference things that people would be afraid to, like, there's no irony to it. It is very much just kind of loving myself and being able to appreciate the minute artifacts that I've been able to consume, and expressing all forms of my emotion, even from the completely pessimistic and negative to the incredibly sentimental and just like, I love you so much. It's very important for me to be able to never have shame and never feel entitled to the rule of cool, because the rule of cool to me is complete honesty. It is. Yeah. I just watched the movie Ed Wood, but I wound up really relating to the main character because movies to him are just It's the first take, you know, it's whatever came out of the time and place, and going back over it again is antithetical to the process, no matter if it is perceived as good or bad.
Wow. Yeah. I think so. Like my whole thing, right? The whole thing that I call everything, like with my brand. That's what I call it. Soldi. That's what it's about. I feel like I feel like it's a mission for me that I've set for myself to have this new relevant handbook or philosophy of the artist and like the digital artist, and how and there's certain things that like we recognize as artists that that if you want to get into this whole game, you got to know. Like, one of the things that motivates me is like the fact that I'm gonna die. Like one day I'm gonna die, and I don't want to have wasted potential. That's my worst fear. If I feel like if I die, and I'm like, bro, what the? I'm living life with so many regrets because I've been repressing myself or just making dumb decisions or some shit. Like, I don't want to be able to do that. I want to be like, I want to live my life again, you know?
Absolutely.
And so honesty, I feel like, to me, like that's crucial. People talk about getting close to God and religion and all of that. And religion is cool to the extent to that it gives people principle and like reason to live their life. Like, I don't want a bunch of suicidal people walking around, but there's something very unique to somebody who says, I'm not gonna die. Like, I'm not gonna die. Like, I'm not gonna kill myself and be like, that's it. Instead, they start living suicidally, and like, that's not completely healthy, but they start living life with zero regrets. They're like, bro, if I'm gonna kill myself, let me do this first. Like, let me.
that's what a lot of people would tell me. They're like, if you're really gonna kill yourself, then go stick up a Dollar General, do something crazy, and that might be fucking horrible. But I think that grounded me a lot in that mania. Was like, like, okay, well, if it's your last day, then the world is truly yours.
Yeah, bro, that's exactly it. Now, here's the thing. Some people get to that point in their life and they say, I'm gonna go shoot a blank blank blank. I'm gonna go do some atrocious, abominable, insidious thing, like 9/11 or some shit. Like, I'm gonna drive a plane into a building, or like, and they do crazy things. And I feel like that, like, they get to that point and they make that decision. Instead of living a constructive life, they go the other way. They go the inverse, and they live a destructive life. A part of what Soldi is, like my little brand or whatever, is understanding that relationship between creation and destruction. And I feel like I call like music is magic to me, but it's at a larger concept, it's art. Art is magic to me, because when I watch Harry Potter or some Lord of the Rings or some shit, and Gandalf has his staff and like he's whisking around energy, like, to me that's what art is. And you can use it as a force for, like, this sounds so corny, but you can use it as a force for good. And once you understand that, I personally, like, this isn't a well thought out idea, but I personally kind of feel like if it's in you to do something, like if you do something, it was probably in you to do it. Like, that sounds really redundant. Like, of course you did it, right? But people don't think about that when it comes to Hitler or some evil person. I'm not saying, like, Hitler was definitely evil. He killed 6 million people, but to just dismiss them as crazy, as if like people supported Hitler though. Now that's really crazy. you know. But so there was a process to getting to that position. There is a method to the madness. And I feel like once you devote your life to artistry, you kind of go down the same path as these exalted figures in history. That's crazy.
Where you are kind of like, where your creation is subject to your personal experience and like kind of how your mental has developed.
Yeah. Same thing with destruction though. Like with your creation is subject to your personal experience and temperament. Like if you're not as resilient, like I don't really even know. I haven't thought about it this much because now we're getting into territory where I haven't thought about it this much.
That's okay.
Where like do some people have a stronger will to live than other people, and that's why they don't do the Holocaust, you know? Or something
or even down to like an even more personal decision, like just drugs.
Yeah.
Or something.
All right. So how have you read, there's this book. Have you read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield?
I have not.
All right. So he thinks his idea is that it's people like we feel this dread before. Do you feel a certain sense of dread before you make a song? Like, I have to go make a song. Like, I gotta, and then you're like, come on, bro, just make a song. Like, make the beat before you go do it. Like, you have to like push yourself. There's a force repelling you from doing that thing you need to do.
Absolutely, especially the longer it goes on, because it's like you already have such a large body of work. It's like, what are you going to do to add on to that?
Mm-hmm. So he thinks that it's that resistance, that force, is what drives people to do these atrocious things instead of creating, right? Because Hitler used to be a painter, right? But I haven't seen a single painting of his. Like I
actually do have something to say about that. I remember people who looked at his artwork, and I think this was like before he even rose to any sort of political power. They just pointed out how like lifeless and tacky and just like just empty a lot of it was.
Mm-hmm. And we know now, like, bro, if somebody types in your comments and they say this song sucks, you can't let it get to you. You know, that's a part. Having a callous, like, tough skin is part of being an artist, like a successful one. I think in my definition, you know, if I let, of course I'm gonna see it and it's gonna linger in my mind, but.
Because we're always gonna have haters. There's always gonna be someone who just despises what you do and thinks you're an idiot. Yeah.
If I don't have like I have to be able to bounce back and respond and do something even greater. And they still may think it's shit. But the hate and like obsession are the same thing. People hate to feel important. They they commit hatred so they can feel important about themselves, right? And that's crazy. The relationship between that, like, to me, like, this is all crazy. That's why you got haters in the comments, because they don't know, they don't got nothing good. They got the time to waste to type on your shit, be like, man, at 2:33, bro, your voice cracked, you suck. Like, I don't know. All right, so now we had this long discussion about memetics and its relation to artistry, and there was a lot of profound stuff. This is by far the best interview I've ever done, in my opinion, because like we were both brutally honest and like, bro, don't nobody understand what the fuck I'm saying sometimes. So what is the message for your audience?
I literally just want people to know that I actually am honestly tearing up a little bit, but I just want them to know that there is a light out there, and I know how fucking hard it gets, and the only thing I could ever ask to have been is that somebody looks at it or listens to it, and they can keep going, and they know that something's out there hearing them. And I don't know why I'm crying, but because I've just lived without that for so long. And I don't know. Sorry. It's
alright.
Every time I try to think about what I do for people, it always comes down to that. I want to convey this ethereal beauty that transcends all. Like, it doesn't matter what the content is, the context is always love, and that is really all I can say about that.
Yeah, man, dude, that was excellent, bro. All I can really say is, like, if you get it, you get it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think a lot. Sadly, you know, if it was me, I think this video would go viral. But I don't think there's a lot of people like you and me. Like, sadly, like, I want to believe, because if I feel this way, certainly somebody else feels almost the same way, and that's what we got going on here. But sometimes I think that's so hard to believe, because I go outside, bro. I go outside and I'm like, fuck. Am I ever gonna find a girl who's gonna like this?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I know what you mean though. Just like, does this do anything for anybody? Like, does this matter? But I constantly have to reinforce myself that the only reason I've done this is just because I love people, and I think people oftentimes are malnourished spiritually and emotionally, and I want to use art and creation as a method to break that boundary, and just to kind of say this, like, existential, just send this, like, this existential hug, you know.
Yeah,
because we're all gonna die. We don't have time, and it feels like the world around us is collapsing with every year that passes more and more, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like, this is the really fucked up part, is when I make my music and no one listens to it, at least I can give that existential hug to myself.
Exactly. We're there for ourselves as well. And that's what made it so emotional for me to explain that process. Is a lot of it is it's very much a large part me and others, but a lot of it is just me and kind of proving to myself that I'm capable and I'm still alive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm alive. Like, to me, there's always been, this is one thing that I feel like everybody, at least in our generation, has wrestled with, and that's the concept of nihilism. Like, everything means nothing. Like, life has no inherent meaning. And to a certain extent, I still believe that's true. Because when you go outside, it feels like we discovered everything, we've made everything kind of makes too much sense almost. And that doesn't make sense. Everything almost makes sense, and that doesn't make sense. And it really bothers me. And the whole thing for most people is that they have to find their sense of belonging and being in this world, and that's what they do. And they have normally a midlife crisis where they're like, oh my God, I've wasted so much of my time doing shit for other people. And I feel like the earlier you can have your so-called midlife crisis, where you're understanding nihilism in its context in your own life, you have a higher chance of living a more fulfilling life. And that's kind of what I want to convey to people. Like, that's exactly what I want to convey to people with my whole brand and soldi and dressing up like this and shit like that. So one more thing is, if you have any special shout outs, any special thank yous, you want to say hi to mom, now's the time to do so.
Oh my god, I've got so many, so I'll try to list them off, or as many that come to the top of my head. First of all, I love you, Connor. Thank you so much for working with me and continuing to be a source of inspiration in my life. Thank you to everyone. Oh man, I'm gonna start crying again. Thank you, everyone I've met throughout. It's so hard. Everyone I've met in school, that was cool. Thank you to my family. I don't think I could have done it without you.
It's alright, bro.
Sorry, I'm trying to snap to it. It's hard, but shouts out Moms Only. Shouts out Kino Pro 79. It was awesome when we hung out. Shouts out. This is gonna sound funny. Shouts out Jewel Set, because I feel like that shit really was a pivotal moment at which I realized, young people could create things for themselves. And all of the offshoots of that. Shouts out to all of the young creators who continue to innovate and believe in creation still. Shouts out to the people who even want to troll and kind of take the piss out of it, because I think that's very essential for things to remain poignant. This is gonna be pretty funny, but oh man, some of these shout outs I'm like, damn, should I even say this? But shouts out to even the people I've claimed who have hurt me, because it's all part of the process, and I'm very thankful, even if things didn't work out, to have something to grow off of and kind of challenge myself as a human being. Shouts out to Pop Monster. He has uploaded a lot of my music on DistroKid, and also has been very close to me. Shouts out to Chimbad. Shouts out to this is tricky, but shouts out to CST, shouts out to Deximo. All those guys were there since the very beginning and definitely gave me a sense of relation, and I still talk to a lot of those people still. Shouts out to my friend Kai, who I've been friends with on Steam, and still remain very close with since like the 4th grade. And I really feel like that just about does it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for your time. It's been me, the soldi man, in the cloth, in the style, in the fat. You see? All right, y'all. Listen, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'm out.